Concealed Wisconsin Podcast, Episode 1. Welcome to Concealed Wisconsin, a podcast about guns, Wisconsin, and you. A podcast is a lot like a radio program, a way to get information, entertainment, and breaking news out to the listeners. But we provide the content so you can listen when you'd like to, not when we happen to be on the air. We're going to use a variety of media, video, so check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/Concealed Wisconsin. We'll do blogging and podcasting. You can find our blog and podcast at concealedwisconsin.com. And once things are all set up, you'll be able to subscribe to us on iTunes. Here's the deal, folks. Wisconsin just recently passed a concealed carry law in Wisconsin. Like literally less than 2 weeks ago. In fact, we're still waiting for Governor Walker to sign the bill. The big day is scheduled for July 8th in Wausau, Wisconsin, and I know it's going to be a historic day because we're the second to the last state to recognize the Second Amendment for its citizens. We all know that the last state is Illinois, and we're hoping to be able to change that soon too. Before I get going with my special guest, I want to put out a disclaimer that is very important. I'm recording this show on July 1st, 2011, and the new concealed carry law hasn't been signed yet. Once it is signed, it won't be in effect until October or November of 2011. We're going to be discussing a lot on the show concerning many aspects of guns, carrying guns, and the new concealed carry law. But we are not lawyers, judges, or government officials. Thank goodness. And we're not going to discuss anything that should be construed as legal advice, counsel, or training. We urge you to read the law for yourself and make sure you know it and understand it before strapping on a firearm. Well, this is the inaugural podcast for Concealed Wisconsin, and I'm very excited to have as my first guest one of the major players in the Second Amendment movement here in Wisconsin. You may have seen him on TV, heard him on the radio debating anti-gun liberals, or just walking around town openly carrying his gun on his hip. He's the president and founder of Wisconsin Carry, Inc., a volunteer nonprofit Wisconsin corporation that advocates for both open carry and concealed carry for law-abiding citizens in the state of Wisconsin. I want to welcome Nik Clark to the show. Nik, it's great to have you on the show today. How's it going?
Thanks so much for having me on. It's Independence Day weekend, so my favorite holiday, and with the concealed carry law being signed next week, it's a good time to live in Wisconsin.
Yeah, you've been pretty involved in the whole Second Amendment, and you've got this organization, Wisconsin Carry, Inc. What can you tell me about Wisconsin Carry, and what are some of the highlights that's happened over the last year or so?
Yeah, Wisconsin Carry grew out of some activists that had participated in the open carry movement here in Wisconsin. So, of course, nationwide, many states have had concealed carry laws for quite some time, and the open carry movement has been a force nationwide. But here in Wisconsin, the open carry movement really took on a different twist, because here it's the only way that we can carry. So I think for that reason, open carry is actually bigger in Wisconsin than it was anywhere else in the country. And our organization early on advocated for the right of people to carry in the manner of their choosing, open or concealed, and of course concealed not yet being legal. But to take a step back, our origins came from an online forum, opencarry.org, where some of our founders participated, and over the course of the summer of 2009, of course, the historic event back in April of 2009, when J.B. Van Hollen confirmed that open carry was legal in the state of Wisconsin, that it was not disorderly conduct, that really opened the floodgates for people to start exercising their right to carry under the federal Constitution, Second Amendment, but of course under Wisconsin's state Constitution, Article 1, Section 25. After that time, as open carry began to proliferate in Wisconsin, some of the founders of that website, opencarry.org, had really encouraged me, because I had been active and done some radio and TV here in the state. They encouraged me to get a group started. And I kind of resisted, because there's other groups in Wisconsin. There's We Force and Wisconsin Concealed Carry Association, Wisconsin Gun Owners, and a few other smaller groups. And I didn't think that it was appropriate to really try to split the effort, the gun rights movement, even further stratify it. But around the fall, some of the people that we had been friends with and other open carry activists had been harassed by the police inappropriately, some unlawful treatment by the police, and we started to see an opportunity and a need to do something that other groups weren't willing to do. And those two things were to file some lawsuits to take action against people whose rights were violated while they were open carrying. And then the second was the biggest hindrance to open carry was these 1,000-foot school zones, the gun-free school zones, which Wisconsin has. And so we twofold. Our first action was to file a lawsuit to challenge the constitutionality of those gun-free school zones. And in that same lawsuit, we applied we filed against some municipalities who had improperly treated people who were lawfully open carrying. So that happened in January of 2010 when we made our first press release. We actually incorporated in November of 2009. So we made our first press release after filing that lawsuit. We thought it was important to really, with the other groups that existed in Wisconsin, not be just a group that said, here, give us money and we will do something. We took the route that we were going to do something first, and if people wanted to support that, we give them an opportunity to do so. And the growth was really exponential from day one. We grew in the first year from the 3 founding members to over 4,000 members. So it's the growth was pretty phenomenal, and it was very rewarding to be a part of. So that was kind of the founding of Wisconsin Carry. Since that time, we filed, I think, 2 other lawsuits. We filed a lawsuit against the city of Brookfield, who improperly treated a person who was lawfully open carrying, and obtained a judgment against Brookfield for $7,500. In the first lawsuit that we filed, the city of Racine made an offer of judgment against them for $10,000 for the person who they had improperly arrested for legally open carrying. And those two things in concert really, and the subsequent media attention, brought a lot of awareness to open carry. From open records requests that we did of other departments, we know that they sent memos around, and it really served to serve notice to other municipalities that if you harass people who are open carrying, here's an organization that has the resources and the motivation to take action. So then the third lawsuit and some of our largest growth came from last fall when, according to Madison 5 Incident 5, our members had just casually gone for dinner up at Culver's. They had met at an open carry get-together and then just decided they were going to get together for dinner sometime. Wasn't a planned or staged event, and they were harassed at a Culver's in Madison, and that subsequently made statewide news and really led to a huge explosion of growth in our membership. And that kind of takes us right up into the legislative session last year, where after the elections in November, when we had a pro-gun governor, Senate, and Assembly, and we really initiated our constitutional carry initiative, which has been kind of the focus of our efforts leading right up until, just in the last couple of weeks.
Wow, that was a lot. I'm going to try and break some of that down. Let me go back to the lawsuits, because I think that's been one of the staples of your organization. You've advocated for individuals who were harassed illegally by law enforcement, and everybody loves law enforcement when they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, but there are instances where law enforcement crosses the line and infringes on liberties. In these 2 cases, uniquely, at least one of them had evidence in the form of an audio recorder or something that helped prove that case. Is that something that you advocate, is to have some means to record interactions with law enforcement?
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that you have to do that, but it is a common practice that not just here in Wisconsin, but the people who open carry, and again, nationwide, open carry is a choice. In Wisconsin, it's a necessity because it's the only way to carry. But carrying a voice recorder is something that gives people documentation so that they can have, I'm sure in the situations where people have we've gone to court before for something as simple as a speeding ticket, and you always hear it's your word against the police. The court's going to believe the police. So we strongly support good law enforcement, and we think most of law enforcement in the state has responded very, very well to the laws and the rights of citizens. But as you mentioned, there's just a couple instances where we had some really improper, illegal treatment by the police, and fortunately for our members, that in a couple of those circumstances, they made a habit of carrying a voice recorder so they could really document what took place and give them legitimacy when they have to defend themselves against the actions that the police took against them. And in our situations, give us leverage as we file these civil suits against the people whose rights were violated.
Right.
So there was a gentleman who was seen who was open carrying, sitting on his porch. The police came to the street to investigate something up the street, kind of terminated that or dealt with that investigation, came back, and they knew that he wasn't a subject of that investigation, and just asked him, hey, I see you're carrying, asked him for his ID, and started to get a little aggressive with him, at which point he decided to exercise his right to remain silent, and they arrested him. And it's kind of ironic on the voice recorder, you can hear the police as they're, throwing the cuffs on him, that one of the officers says, I hope you have a good attorney. And it was kind of ironic that we used that as documentation of what happened when we obtained the judgment against Racine.
Right. Yeah, I remember listening to that audio recording. It's on YouTube, I believe. And interestingly enough, there are some organizations in law enforcement, i.e. the sheriff in Milwaukee, I believe, is very openly going against J.B. Van Hollen, the Attorney General of Wisconsin, and saying that, hey, if you open carry in our city, expect to go down, get arrested, and we'll sort out the details later. Those are unfortunate situations. I've talked to several different sheriff's candidates in the last election, including the one who won in my county, and that is not the typical, at least smaller town sheriff's attitude. But in those bigger cities, you have Chief Flynn and whoever that sheriff is, that they have that attitude that they are above the Constitution, apparently. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and here in Milwaukee, that was Chief Flynn who had made those comments about, right after the open carry memo came out from J.B. Van Hollen in April of 2009, Ed Flynn went on TV and made a real boisterous declaration that anybody that carried in his city was going to be put on the ground and disarmed, put on the ground, and then they would decide what rights they had. And so we immediately initiated a open records request of any training bulletins that went out to the police officers, and found out very quickly that the actual memos that went out to the officers reflected the reality that people have rights, and that they can't stop someone without probable cause or reasonable suspicion. So the actual behind the scenes was much more tame, but there was a lot of bravado on TV, I think intended to scare people from exercising their lawful right to carry. Right. And it worked, because I still have people make the comment to me that, you can't carry in Milwaukee. And well, I mean, I carry in Milwaukee, every day, but it did work that, you scared people into thinking that they couldn't carry in Milwaukee and suppress the right to carry there.
Right. We should say that your organization is Wisconsin Carry Inc., and you can be found online at wisconsincarry.org. You do have a YouTube channel with a few videos on it, and a very active Facebook group that you can, I guess, ask for permission to be a part of to follow along. What are the benefits of being a part of an organization like Wisconsin Carry? And is it real expensive to be a part of that?
Yeah, it's $15 for first year membership, and then subsequent memberships to renew is really any donation that people want to make will renew their membership. So we're cognizant of the fact that people are, especially in this economy, might be short on money, and we're cognizant that a lot of people make contributions to the cause that are more than monetary. So a lot of people are very active and volunteer their time. They don't have money. We have members that are unemployed. They don't have money to donate, but they have a lot of time to invest in the cause. So we like to recognize all those efforts. And so literally $1 would renew your membership, but the first year membership is $15.
Right.
The membership on the Facebook page is of course free, and but the dues paying members would go to our website, wisconsincarry.org. where they'd obtain, you get nice member decals and then a welcome letter. Yeah, a lot of people, there's some people that don't have a lot of time and they'd prefer to donate money to the cause to advance it. And then, some people like to don't have a lot of money to have time to donate to do things. So all different kinds of contributions for our members.
Right. Obviously, I've been to a number of events, and there's always a number, in the half dozen to dozen range of individuals when I've been at a open carry event or some sort of a political event where you're trying to make a statement of people that travel from a lot of times the eastern part of the state where you guys are mainly from, and you're there selling your T-shirts, you're handing out literature, you're doing all these different things. So it is a very active volunteer organization, which I think is important to stress that this is a non-profit organization. There are benefits to being in it, and I think one of the benefits would obviously be the lawsuits that you've put forth on behalf of members. Who pays for those lawyers' fees and things like that? Is that pro bono work, or is there fees that are paid by the dues, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's really a combination. We do have some great attorneys that believe strongly in the cause, so they give us some discounted rates on their fees. But so the fees come from, the costs are covered by fees from dues paying members. We have donations that are outside of membership dues that we use to cover the lawsuits during some of the more public lawsuits that got regional and sometimes national attention. We had some really large donations come in from out of state, from other firearms organizations and foundations. And really a combination of those things is how we're funded.
We have a new law that's going to be signed here in just over a week on July 8th in Wausau. It's important to stress that we have a new law, but that law is not in force and hasn't even been implemented, so don't go out and carry. Obviously this new law puts a bigger focus on maybe the concealed carry because it's the new thing. Does this change the way that your organization is pushing its information and getting the word out? And can you tell us a little bit about what we can do currently before the law? I mean, we still can open carry, so maybe you could talk a little bit about that too.
Yeah, we obviously right now, and we're actually waiting for the law to actually be signed. And I'm not the line of the veto process. I'm not intimately familiar with in Wisconsin. Sometimes I've heard it's pretty robust and it can really change a bill. And sometimes I've heard it's not that it's not very it's not used to a large extent. So, but we're waiting until the law is actually signed to make sure that we know exactly what's in it. And at that point, we're going to send out a release to our members and let them know what the new law is. But right now, as it exists, basically it will, the open carry portion, and there's been some discussion of whether the portions of the law that affect open carry take effect immediately or take effect on the date in the bill, which I think is, like you mentioned, 4 months, so October, November. And my understanding, I think the consensus was that those don't take effect until that 4-month point is reached. I could be wrong, but that was my understanding from the conversations that I've had. But so what will change? Right now, you can open carry in Wisconsin. The places that you can't carry, of course, are state parks, fish hatcheries, unless it's unloaded and encased. Weapons in vehicles, of course, have to be unloaded and encased. No weapons in any government buildings, whether it's literally an outhouse at a wayside or a municipal building or a court. Right now, no firearms in any government buildings. No handguns right now in places that serve alcohol unless you have specific permission. And then those gun-free school zones, which we talked about a couple minutes ago. So those are the 5 places right now. What's going to change under the new law is that under open carry, even if you don't have a permit to conceal, you'll be able to carry in your vehicle. So that'll be nice because now people don't have to do the ritual of getting to your car, unloading and encasing your vehicle, which, of course, in Wisconsin, when we can certainly not count on good weather all year round, you'll be able to get into your car and not have to worry about a violation there. You will have to be cautious if you choose to open carry and don't get a permit of those school zones, because that's going to remain in effect if you don't have a permit. So if you know that your route is going to take you from a place that doesn't cross school zones, you could conceivably, drive in your vehicle with your gun, loaded and on your hip, openly carried. Likely, because those school zones cover such a broad area, that pretty much any drive that you take is likely to cross a school zone. So when you drive, when you're actually moving in your vehicle, you'll want to unload it and put it in the case, but you can at least get in your vehicle and not have to deal with the unloading and encasing until you're already inside and moving. So that's the big change with regard to open carry. And then, of course, with the permit, you'll obviously be exempt from those school zones. School grounds are still off limits, so you won't be able to go to the playground on a school ground. If you're walking your kids and there's a playground, you have to avoid school grounds. But that's a much more feasible restriction, because right now those school zones, you have no idea where they start and end. You could be within 1,000 feet of a school, which is nearly a quarter mile, and not even know you're within 1,000 feet. So I think a lot of people will go ahead and get that permit because open carry is still very practical on private property and in rural areas, but in populated areas, you're really going to want to get a permit to be exempt from those school zones.
Has there ever been an issue in Wisconsin with a school zone? That law seems extremely frivolous to not be able to be within 1,000 feet. I mean, I understand you don't want guns around kids if you're paranoid of that type of thing, but just thinking of the fact that if I was able to keep my gun in my car and I had to drive by a school, which I drive by 2 schools as I come from my home to my office, the fact that I would either have to find an alternate route so that I'm not within 1,000 feet, which is a pretty big distance, that just seems really ridiculous to me. So I'm glad to see that that's at this point coming out of the law with the permitting. So that's good news on that front, because that's got to be a huge pain in the neck for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate that law wasn't enforced at all until open carry became legal. There's instances here in Milwaukee where there's a very notorious crime boss who went on like a 10-year crime spree here, ranging from mortgage fraud to murder, and he had actually been stopped in a school zone and with a concealed weapon, and the DA chose not to file charges because the concealed weapons violation is just a misdemeanor, but he was actually stopped in a school zone, which would have been a felony, so the police could have pursued a felony against this guy, and this was kind of early in his crime spree. So we did some open records requests of arrests in Milwaukee, and there was dozens and literally hundreds of arrests inside of school zones that they were never prosecuted until the open carry memo came out. And then when law-abiding people started to carry, then these departments were using the school zone as a way to infringe upon the right of law-abiding citizens to carry. It was really unfortunate. We did some open records requests and some conversations between the city of Brookfield and the Milwaukee Police Department, and they referred to the gun-free school zone law as the silver bullet to be able to stop and detain and arrest open carriers. So, it's good that permit system is now going to be in place so that we can avoid exposing ourselves to legal peril. But it's unfortunate the way that law has been applied. It could have been used judiciously to really get some criminals off the streets, and instead it was only used when law-abiding citizens began to carry.
Yeah, that sounds very typical of the liberal politicians who go after the law-abiding citizens with their gun rules and laws, and unfortunately the illegal guns and the gangsters they continue to carry regardless, and it's the people that suffer, the ones that are the law-abiding citizens.
Absolutely.
I'm sure that in your line of work with who you are and the reputation that you have, you've seen a number of individuals that have come out of the woodwork with the desire to open carry, but I've open carried. I know that there's a little bit of anxiety with that because there's been a little bit of harassment by the police, but also you're exposing yourself in a very vulnerable way by walking around with a gun. It takes a little bit of getting used to. We've got 4 months before a concealed carry law comes into effect, and even after that law, some people are going to still choose to open carry. What are some, what's some advice that you might give to open carriers that haven't open carried yet, the virgin open carriers, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, what I'd really say is obviously, you do have the right to open carry in Wisconsin, and open carry is a practical matter. I mean, there's certainly situations where I would go places and I wouldn't want to open carry if I was going to, if I was going to Summerfest, which of course, I mean, Summerfest prohibits weapons, so you can't carry in there anyway. But if they did allow carry in there, it's not a place to open carry because there's, shoulder to shoulder, a lot of body contact between you and other people, strangers that you don't know. So, weapons retention would be difficult in that kind of environment. But in other environments, open carry is very practical, and I would encourage people, if they would like to exercise their right to carry, to do so openly when it's appropriate and concealed. I really want people to make the choices that are best for them based on their situation and evaluate the circumstances that they're in. Obviously, if you're wearing shorts and a T-shirt, open carry might be the most practical thing for you. In the winter, when you want to have a jacket on, you'll be concealed carrying. You go into a store, take your jacket off and throw it in the cart, then you're open carrying. So really, I think in the future it'll be a combination of things for people, and they'll be able to make the choices that are best for them given the particular circumstances that they're carrying. But I definitely encourage people. I mean, open carry is legal right now. The instances of people being harassed are out there, but they're a very, very small percentage of the actual number of people that open carry. And so I wouldn't suggest that people, wait to exercise their rights. Feel free to exercise your rights now. Certainly study the law, understand the law, but don't be afraid to exercise the rights that you have. As they coin the phrase, rights not exercised, your rights lost. So we encourage people to study the law, know the law, and exercise your rights.
Well, like we talked with the Milwaukee chief of police, he certainly made a case for people not to openly carry their firearms, and probably scared a few people off. How long have you been open carrying, and how often do you do it? Have you ever been harassed?
I started open carrying literally the day that the memo came out. Because of the contacts that I have with attorneys, one of the first contacts that a local TV station made was with an attorney, and he referred them to me. And so the day that the J.B. Van Halen released the memo, I actually found out about it from a reporter, and began open carrying that day, and really have carried every opportunity I've had since then. So that was April of 2009. So just over 2 years of carrying literally thousands of places. Major retailers, Walmart, Home Depot, regional retailers like Pick and Save, Century. I carry everywhere I go that it's legal to do so. So of course I don't carry in government buildings and public libraries and post offices, but everywhere else, school zones of course. But everywhere else I carry, doctor's office, dentist office.
And how many times have you been detained or arrested?
Never detained, never arrested. I've walked right in front of police officers and didn't even, certainly saw that I was carrying. Actually, here in my subdivision, I'm on the homeowners association board, and I was up at our entry boulevard picking up some trash out of the boulevard, and someone had called the police because I was walking around in the boulevard, and I was open carrying at that time, and the police came and asked what I was doing. I said, I'm picking up trash. I'm on the HOA board, and they saw that I was carrying and didn't say a word about it, drove away. So never been asked to leave a store. And like I said, I've been in thousands of stores, never had any managers ask me to leave, never had a negative experience. Every once in a while, I'll have a person ask me about it. Oh, I didn't know that was legal, and ask me a few questions. In fact, today I was shopping for groceries and had that happen. I was checking out, and there was a gentleman behind me, and he asked, this Wisconsin carry, is that a club or is that and so I gave him some information and the open carry pamphlets, and pretty confident he'll be open carrying here in the near future.
So obviously you're a right-wing lunatic. You've probably shot a few people or, taken your gun out and pointed at a number of people, right?
That's what the assumption would be from a lot of people in the media. Right. I think there's a mentality in the media that, the minute you have a gun on your hip, it turns you into a different person, and you get this hypothetical, well, what if a person snaps type situation? But, we have, fortunately, For Wisconsin, well, unfortunately that we've been so far behind the times, but fortunately for data purposes, we can look at 48 other states where people carry and have carried for 10, 20 years. And obviously we all in the gun rights world know that there's no problems and no negative consequences as a result of that. So,
right.
Wisconsin's obviously definitely going through a learning curve from the public standpoint, from the non-gun owners, non-gun educated people standpoint, that they're recognizing that, concealed carry is something that happens every day in the rest of the country, and now it's happening here. And it's kind of amazing to still hear people on the news preach the doom and gloom that, other states preach the doom and gloom. And granted, if we were the first state that was getting concealed carry, I can understand the media making some of those comments and speculations. But now, 20 years since other states have been practicing concealed carry on a regular basis, and you don't need to speculate and fearmonger. You can just look at other states and know that there's no problems and no negative consequences.
Right. Yeah. In fact, going through the concealed carry classes for another state, we looked specifically at the law-abiding citizens that get concealed carry in this particular state, and compared the criminal behavior that they had in comparison to the average Joe citizen. And the statistics were so off the chart, where the people that get a carry permit and they go through the process, they get the background check, they are so, straight-collared, stand-up citizens that, for the doom and gloomers and the media who uses the fear tactic, it's really ridiculous. And that is the way that they try and pass their, their what they want done. They use fear, and that's really an unfortunate thing. What are your overall impressions of the law that was passed? Obviously, there's the vetoes that may happen and things of that nature, but overall, what's your impressions of the current law as it was signed by the Assembly?
Yeah, and I don't expect that there would be any vetoes. So I think the law that we have now is the law that's the bill that exists now is going to become law. It's a very good shall issue type bill. I think that it brings Wisconsin up to where other states currently are. Obviously, our organization was advocating for constitutional carry, and I think we made huge strides regarding constitutional carry this past year. A year ago at this time, last spring, nobody knew what constitutional carry was. Some gun owners did, but not a single legislator. I'm confident not a single legislator in Wisconsin knew what the term constitutional carry meant. I'm confident that nobody in the major newspaper, news, and radio world knew what constitutional carry was. But now, thanks to the efforts of our organization, and certainly there was other gun rights organizations in Wisconsin that were on board with constitutional carry as well. But constitutional carry really has, there's not a single legislator that doesn't know what constitutional carry is. There's not a single person in the major TV news, radio, newspaper that doesn't know what constitutional carry is. So we really, really dug the tunnel a lot of the way through the mountain. We didn't break through the other side, but we laid that foundation, and I think that's going to make it easier in the future for us to get that constitutional carry. My expectation is that in 5 years, when people have to start renewing their permits and paying more money to exercise their right tomorrow that they were legal to do today, they're going to really have a bad taste in their mouth. Right now, not being able to conceal carry, I think paying the $50 for the permit and the background check, people will swallow that pretty well, because it's kind of like if you're starving, you're going to eat macaroni and cheese. But that's what I expect as far as constitutional carry goes. But the bills that exist now, it wasn't. The constitutional carry is a very good shall issue bill. If it goes through as it is now, it doesn't have an oppressive training mandate where you have to take an 8-hour class that costs $300 or something. People that have taken hunter safety are qualified. Honorably discharged from the military is qualified. And a number of other, if you have a license from, I think, another state that requires training, that shows that serves as qualification for the training requirement. So it's a very good shall issue bill. I think that obviously will work in the future. Even compared to other states, I think this allows you to carry in places that serve alcohol, and that's something that a lot of other states have really had their initial concealed carry laws didn't allow that, and now they're working to let that allow that. So you can go to a restaurant. It doesn't allow you, I think you can't drink, but you can be in a place that serves alcohol, so you can go to a restaurant and not have to be defenseless as you walk from the restaurant to your car. So it's a very good shall issue law.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're not going to get a lot into the interpretation through this process, at least at this point. And as they process the permitting system and they implement it and they design it, them being the government that's going to issue these permits, I'm hoping to have other persons that have read the law and have a real good grasp of it on the show to explain it to people and to, give a better insight. But at this point, you and I have really stayed away from interpreting anything because we don't know what the final bill is going to look like. And the last thing we want to do is put misinformation out there. Our time's probably just about up, but is there any final thoughts that you have or parting wisdom for listeners concerning the future of concealed carry, open carry in Wisconsin?
Yeah, well, and the first thing I would say is, on behalf of myself and the organization, is just a huge thank you to all of our members and even non-members. So many people in Wisconsin in this past year that became very active in the legislative process. People that I had people make comments to me that they'd never talked to a legislator before in their life, but concealed carry, and that was very important to them. Constitutional carry was very important to them, so they were reaching out to legislators and becoming active, and I think that's a very good thing. And so just a huge thank you to all the people that have advanced this cause, the other organizations. It's been a long time coming for Wisconsin, and it's nice to though we didn't get the constitutional carry, it's important to keep in mind that what we're really talking about here is self-defense, and there's going to be lives saved because of this shall issue bill. So despite the fact that you have to get a permit, which you really shouldn't have to do for a human right that's constitutionally guaranteed, but despite that fact that you have to get that permit, this law will save lives, and that's really what's most important here. And certainly we always throw out there that we strongly advocate that people get voluntary training. Obviously, this law mandates training, which we didn't support, but training is a good thing. Training comes from a variety of sources, experts, friends, online resources. There's a wealth of information out there and opportunities for people to acquire more knowledge about the right to carry, the right to self-defense, and methods of self-defense. So, it's just, like I said, a huge thank you. A couple things I would mention is obviously, a huge thank you to the legislators that supported constitutional carry, Pam Galloway, who introduced the legislation and truly believed in it. I mean, it was amazing to see how Pam could advocate for it. This wasn't a political position for her. This is what she truly believed in. And 9 other senators who signed as co-authors with Pam, huge thank you to those. I couldn't reel all 10 off from the top of my head and I don't want to leave off a couple. But 10 other senators who co-authored that bill. I think it was 24 or 26 assemblymen who co-sponsored the bill. Huge thank you to them and appreciate their support in the legislature. And we'll continue to work to advance the cause.
Well, Nick, I think we covered everything we could in the time we had, and I want to thank you again for being my first guest on Concealed Wisconsin. That's going to wrap up this episode, so thank you for listening to Concealed Wisconsin's first podcast. Again, please check out the show notes for this episode at concealedwisconsin.com. Visit all the links mentioned to see how you can get more involved. Concealed Wisconsin is a unique online community, and we encourage you to become part of it. Head on over to concealedwisconsin.com and leave us some comments, become a fan on Facebook, or subscribe to us on YouTube. Remember, you can always listen online. You can download the audio to your computer or take us on the go by subscribing on iTunes. Check us out at concealedwisconsin.com. Thanks for listening, and carry on.